You know, I never thought for a moment in my life that I would side with Walmart in anything, but watching Donald Trump lose his mind and completely live in a world of delusion where the consequences of his actions just don't exist is really an interesting place for me to be in and internalize, honestly. The other day we saw Walmart CFO and CEO come out and talk about how these tariffs are going to be causing a lot of price hikes and shortages at Walmart. And that tells us that retail in general throughout the entire country is going to be seeing a lot of these price hikes and shortages and gaps in supply chain. And it's got a lot of people on edge, honestly, because the cost of living is so high right now, people really can't afford much of an increase, especially a 10, 20, 30% increase. So how does Donald Trump respond? With a complete denial of reality. That's what he does, because the man's losing it. He says, Walmart should stop trying to blame tariffs as a reason for raising the prices throughout the chain. Between Walmart and China, they should, as is said, eat the tariffs and not charge valued customers anything. I'll be watching, as will your customers. Number one, that sounds like a threat. And it's Donald Trump, so yeah, it probably is a threat. But at the same time, this is America's largest retailer, right? 90% of Americans live within 10 miles of a Walmart. Everyone uses Walmart. Not just for food, so we're not just talking about food shortages, but for electronics, batteries, school supplies, clothing. I mean, everything is imported. And it's not just Walmart, it's retail all over the country, because that's how our global supply network works at this point. And it's pretty well accepted to this point that these tariffs, the cost of those are going straight to the consumer. Straight to the American consumer. We're the ones who are having to pay for it, because unlike what Trump thinks, these companies aren't just going to eat that, because they'll collapse. Like I said, I don't want to be on the side of Walmart. I really don't. I don't like Walmart. But at the same time, I know that communities all over the country who lost most of their retail grocers and department stores, all because of Walmart, are now reliant on Walmart. I know this, and most of America knows this at this point. So if Walmart just shut down, it would be terrible. If Walmart just shut down or had such shortages that it threw the country into a scarcity mindset, it'd be absolute chaos. Walmart CFO John David Rainey said, "We have not seen price increases at this magnitude in the speed in which they're coming at us before, and so it makes for a challenging environment. As a retail giant and the largest grocer in the country, Walmart is often seen as a bellwether for the health of retailers and U.S. consumers." Like I said, because they are the largest, they have the most connections. And if they're going to be struggling, then everyone's going to be struggling. And the CEO and CFO came out just the other day and said that we're just weeks away from really seeing a lot of these shortages actually take place. So that reality is coming. There's really no reason for the CEO or the CFO to tank their own stock or to create panic in the financial world. I just don't really see any incentive to do that. Not when the evidence is so clear that these shortages are coming. But Trump is just so detached from reality at this point that he doesn't understand, or he's in just complete denial. He's so dissociated from what the American people go through. I mean, the man doesn't even know what groceries are. He said it's an old term, like no one uses it. Groceries, grocery store.
An old-fashioned term that we use, groceries. I used it on the campaign. It's such an old-fashioned term, but a beautiful term, groceries. It sort of says a bag with different things in it. Groceries went through the roof, and I campaigned on that. I talked about the word groceries for a lot.
I mean, this is what we have to deal with in America right now. This is our leader. If you think groceries are some kind of archaic thing because you have your McDonald's delivered to you on a golden platter, I mean, how are you leading anybody? The business deals that you're making don't touch the American people, except in a negative way. You're pumping up the military-industrial complex by selling jets and bombs all over the world, while at the same time, people aren't even going to be able to go buy clothes for their kids. And all this at the same time that every government sector has been absolutely gutted of employees. That we have tornadoes all over the country right now, and we don't have enough weather officials to actually give the warning when they're happening, and it's going to cost lives. We're already seeing lives lost all over the country as the National Weather Service has to hurry up and move people around to storm zones to make sure that there's enough people there to actually prepare and warn people of a tornado landing. It's absolutely crazy. And the worst thing is, if he honestly thinks that these tariffs don't have any impact on the prices, then there's really no reason that he won't raise them again. At the end of that 90 days, if he doesn't get what he wants, who's to say he doesn't move them back up again? In which case the price hikes will definitely go up and the shortages will be guaranteed, massive, and beyond consequential. But maybe we shouldn't be surprised that he doesn't understand the impact on these, because the impact of the tariffs affect the poorest people in America. It affects the working class, the working poor. It doesn't really affect the upper middle class. It doesn't really affect the upper class, people who have enough assets that they can weather these kind of storms. But people who are living paycheck to paycheck, who just saw their bananas at Walmart go from 40, 50 cents a pound to 79 cents a pound, that actually does mean something. It does. If you're a single parent with kids and you have to use WIC or you have to use food stamps to get what you need, and that just supplements things. And people think that WIC and food stamps, they'll give you everything that you want, but someone can't survive on just beans, meat, cereal, and cheese. WIC, EBT, food stamps, these are things that are meant to supplement the food that's coming into the house. It doesn't give all of it. So people still need to pay, and people who are using that don't have the money to pay for 20, 30% tariffs. You just don't. The financial margins that they have to live in are so slim that 10% can throw people to the point where they're in food insecurity now. And that's what this is all about. That's what Donald Trump doesn't understand. It's not just about profits. It's about food insecurity. It's about making sure that kids have shoes, that kids have clothes on their back, that people can actually go out and do things and have lives instead of just, going to work, going home, eating and sleeping. Life is about more than that, but this man doesn't understand that, because his life revolves around profit and putting his name everywhere. And I suppose an answer would be, hey, you can just start going to thrift stores. But the thing is, Goodwills are actually shutting down all over the country right now, or they have to raise their prices to meet the increased rents that are happening. So thrift stores are actually becoming more unaffordable. You might as well just go to a department store and hope that there's a sale. But there's not going to be any sales coming anytime soon, because inventory is about to crash all over the country. This kind of delusion really can't stand in the highest office of our land. It just can't. Is he making deals all over the world right now with despots and dictators? Yeah, absolutely. But the rest of the Western world really wants nothing to do with this guy, because you just can't trust him, because he has no concept of what's good for the normal American person. When he's shutting down small business left and right with these tariffs, while at the same time, he's pumping up big business. The big business isn't doing anything for normal people. They're not increasing the wages. They're not giving more jobs. They're getting rid of people while at the same time having record profits. This guy doesn't represent American people. If you think that he represents American people, you're an absolute fool. You're a rube, right? You've been drinking the snake oil a little bit too long. It's time to step away and realize the damage that this is doing to our country and do something about it. When midterms come around, think about who you're actually voting for this time, because the consequence of getting these kind of people in, although you think that they might ideologically represent you somehow, at the same time, they're destroying our economy, destroying our country, destroying our values, hollowing out our government to the point where it's basically useless. For the next 10 years, they're going to talk about how the government does nothing, the government doesn't help anybody. And one of the big reasons for that now is because it's been absolutely gutted of personnel. In total, almost 500,000 jobs have been cut from the federal government. And you may think that, well, those are just unnecessary people who are getting overpaid. Government workers don't get overpaid. Have you ever met a government worker? They're not military contractors. They're not DOD contractors. They're usually some kind of admin person. They don't make a lot of money. They're just hoping to get some kind of pension at some point, because government work used to be safe. Now everyone's on the chopping block. Because that's the thing about Donald Trump. It's all about the short term. It's about what gain and profit can be made right now. And he's not thinking generations from now. He's not thinking 10 years from now. He's probably not even thinking 5 years from now. It's like, in the next 4 years, what kind of massive profit can him and his buddies get by manipulating the tax system, putting in bills that just take everything from the poor and give to the rich? This kind of reverse Robin Hood that we have in charge of our government right now is just bleeding our country dry. It's bleeding our country dry. This guy has lost his mind. Well, he may not have lost his mind, but he certainly doesn't have any humanity. He can talk about the plight of other people in other countries, which I really don't believe he actually cares about, because at the same time, his people in our country right now are just heading downhill. And him saying that, hey, we got to suffer before we got to get through this, but at the same time, not giving any kind of time frame, not actually easing our way into hardship, just making the American people dive headfirst into it, is bad for everybody. It's bad for everybody. Whether you're on the right, whether you're on the left. In fact, if you're on the right, if you live in the Midwest, the big Red Sea, there are so many people in government assistance who voted for Donald Trump who are about to lose all of that, but at the same time still seem to be loyal to him. But for what reason? Right? These are irreversible things that he's doing. Gutting the social safety net, putting restrictions on food assistance, housing assistance, everything, Medicare, Medicaid. Getting rid of all these things. How does that help his voter base, right? But still, at the same time, a lot of these representatives have like 20-30% of their constituents are on some of these assistance programs. Like I said, if you're wealthy enough, none of this really matters for you. You can go ahead and get private insurance, or you get it through your work. But if you don't have the ability to work, or if you don't have the money for private health insurance, it puts you in a real bad spot. To just wake up and because of the president's decision, hey, guess what? Your health care is gone, is terrifying. Especially if you're disabled, especially if you're older, especially if you have kids. It's a terrifying position to be in, because in America, the medical costs here are so extreme that if you don't have health insurance and something happens to you, it can put you in debt for life. Getting rid of Medicare, Medicaid, of people who actually use it, because if you're on Medicare, if you're on Medicaid and you're elderly or you're disabled, you're using that, right? What happens to these people when they rack up so many medical bills that they can't pay? They're going to lose their homes. Right? If you're older, if you're from a generation where it's easier to get homes, and now the home is the only asset that you really have, but you have to pay these bills, guess what? You have to sell that home off and move into a retirement home or with your family, or, I would say downsize, but the price of rent right now everywhere makes it impossible to really downsize, especially if you're just on Social Security. This is beyond this guy's understanding, because this is a world that he doesn't understand. This is a world that most Americans understand, but at the same time, we deny that this is reality in a hope for something better to come, while at the same time, there's no guarantee. There's no actual road forward. There's just pain. And a promise that on the other side of that pain is a utopia. That's all this is. A golden era. A new America. A new America, but better. America made great again. It's delusion. It's a lie. And you're being sold snake oil. Man, anyway, we're on one today. So, hey everyone, thanks for stopping by. If you're still here, like and subscribe. Think about becoming a member. If you have any agreements, disagreements, if you're on Trump's side, if you're on Walmart's side, whatever, put it in the comment section and fight it out. Again, it's a great weekend. Weather's beautiful. Get outside your trucks. Go for a walk. Take your family. Go eat some food. Barbecue. I'm barbecuing. But yeah, you guys have a good one.